All right, hello everyone and welcome. Today we're going to dig into a really foundational lesson in Mandarin, and it's not just incredibly practical, it's also linguistically fascinating. We'll be exploring the absolute essential vocabulary for navigating the world around you, giving and understanding directions. I want you to just picture this for a second. You've just landed in Beijing, or maybe Shanghai, or Taipei. The streets are just this whirlwind of vibrant sights and sounds. You're trying to find your hotel, maybe a famous landmark, or, just a bank, and you're feeling a little bit lost. It's in those moments, those very real, very common moments, that a few simple words can become your most powerful tool. So look, our goal today isn't just about memorizing a list of vocabulary. As university-level learners here, we're going to go deeper than that. We are going to deconstruct the very logic of these characters, we're going to master their tones, and we're going to practice how they're applied in real-world contexts. So, you ready? Let's dive in. So, let's start with the most fundamental pair of directional concepts you can think of, left and right. But have you ever really stopped to think about the story behind these characters? See, understanding them isn't just about learning words. It's about appreciating the incredible pictographic storytelling that's embedded right into the Chinese language itself. Now, I want you to look closely at these two characters on your screen. On the left, we've got zuo, and on the right, we have yo. They look almost identical, don't they? And this is a super common point of confusion for new learners. But that small difference in their lower components, well, that's where the story lies. This is a perfect example of how Mandarin uses these subtle visual cues to create completely different meanings. Okay, so let's break down zuo first. This character has two parts. The top left element, as you can see, is a pictograph for a left hand. And right below it is the character gong, which means work. Now, here's a really useful mnemonic for you. Think of the left hand as the assisting hand, the one that helps the dominant hand with the work. The helping hand, the work hand. That's how you can remember that zuo is left. Okay, now let's talk about the sound. Zuo is a third tone. And remember, this is not a flat sound. It has a very distinct contour. It falls and then it rises. Listen really carefully. Zuo. One more time. Zuo. A really common mistake is to either cut it short or to not complete that rising part at the end. Let's practice it together. Zuo. Can you feel that dip? That is absolutely crucial. Next up, we have yo for right. And again, we see a hand component, yo. But underneath, we have the character ko, which means mouth. The mnemonic here is actually pretty intuitive, especially for the majority of people who are right-handed. You typically use your right hand to bring food to your mouth. So, the hand that feeds the mouth. Right. Simple as that. Now, the pronunciation of yo is just as important as knowing what it looks like. It's a fourth tone, a sharp, definitive falling tone. I want you to think of it almost like a command. Yo! Short and forceful. Now let's contrast them, because this is so important. Listen to the difference. Zuo, that dipping third tone, versus yo, that sharp falling fourth tone. The difference is everything. Let's practice that distinction one more time. Zuo, yo. Getting these tones right is absolutely fundamental to being understood. Okay, so we've got our static directions down, left and right. But how do we turn a direction into an action, into a command? Well, this is where Mandarin's logical, kind of building block nature really shines. Let's move on and see how this all comes together. So to say go straight, we combine two really straightforward ideas. First, we have 直, which means straight or direct. Then we have 走, which means to walk or to go. You put them together and the logic is perfectly clear. 直走, literally straight walk, or as we'd say, go straight. Isn't that wonderfully intuitive? Now, what's really interesting here is the tone combination. 直 is a second tone, so it rises, 直, and we already know 走 is a third tone, which dips. When you put them together, there's this natural flow. 直走, rise then dip. A common stumble for learners is making the sounds choppy, like two separate words. It really should flow like one fluid melodic phrase. Listen again and try to feel that melody. 直走. All right, knowing the individual words and phrases is essential, of course, but it's only the first step. The real test is applying them in a natural conversational context. So let's bring these concepts to life and actually role-play a typical interaction. First up, the question. I'll play the role of a student here. I want you to pay attention to the polite and inquisitive tone. 请问银行在哪儿? So let's break that down. 请问 is our excuse me, may I ask? It's very polite. 银行 is bank, and 在哪儿 simply means is where. A perfectly formed, very respectful question. And now, here's the response from a helpful local. Listen to the clarity and the rhythm. 直走，然后往右转. See? There's our 直走 right at the beginning. 然后 means and then, and 往右转 means towards the right, turn. Notice how clear and direct that yo sounds with that fourth tone. It leaves absolutely no room for confusion. You know, if we were in a language lab right now, this is where I'd pause and we'd really address some common errors. A lot of students flatten the third tone in zol, making it sound more like zol instead of the proper zol. Another one I hear all the time is the initial sound in G. It's a retroflex sound. You have to curl the tip of your tongue back. It's not a sharp Z like in Z. And finally, the goal is to move beyond that robotic word-by-word pronunciation and find that natural conversational rhythm we just heard in the example. As we start to wrap up, I want to take a moment to place this very specific, very granular lesson into the broader context of your entire journey toward fluency. It might seem simple on the surface, but what we've covered today is, well, it's monumental. So here's the bottom line. These words, zoa, yo, zhizhou, are so much more than just vocabulary items on a list. They are tools of independence. They are literally the keys that unlock your ability to navigate a new city on your own, to engage with local people, and to build the confidence that you can truly operate and succeed in a new environment. And this right here, this really gets to the heart of our philosophy in this course. We are not here to simply create walking dictionaries. True understanding, that comes from seeing the internal logic of the language, the story inside the characters, and from developing the confidence to produce the sounds accurately and naturally. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. You now have the linguistic tools. You get the characters, you understand the tones, the sentence structure is clear, but the next step, well, it's a psychological one. What does it take to bridge that gap between knowing the words in a classroom and having the courage to actually stop a stranger on a busy street and ask for help? That is the next and maybe the most important part of your journey. Thank you for your time today.